A shocking turn of events. We're hearing that a fourth federal level stimulus check of $1,000 is currently being proposed, and we're hearing it could be making its way to the president as an executive order and executive action to be passed. This is your breaking news stimulus check update and stimulus package update. Now take a look at the headlines. Republican representative pushes for $1,000 stimulus to all Americans. Representative Jim Banks appears to want to directly help inflation-weary Americans instead of giving more aid to the war-torn Ukraine. Now, as you guys know, there was a $40 billion bill proposed. It was blocked in the Senate by Senator Ron Paul. Now, from what we heard, that Representative Jim Banks say, rather than sending that across the world, why don't we take that money, use it here domestically, and send it out to the form of stimulus check to help out our own residents as we're currently in this economic crisis. This is beginning to get some traction as we're in the midterm election year, and voters are saying their number one concern right now is dealing with our economy and inflation, and seeing how Congress members are going to be addressing this. But we also have an update for you that Ukrainian bill it just passed procedures in the Senate. Take a look, Senate advances the $40 billion Ukrainian aid packages as it's going to be moving on through the Senate, likely to be voted on and finalized this week. However, this pause by Senate Ron Paul has brought back to the forefront stimulus checks. I'm going to be diving into the article has given you the details, but take a look in the Senate, this procedural vote. On this vote, the yeas are 368, the nays are 57. The bill is passed. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid out on the table. That was the Senate yesterday approving the procedure to move forward and finalize the $40 billion to Ukraine this week. Now also, as I mentioned, this has sparked more attention towards federal level stimulus checks. But now let's get you caught up on the latest as to what unfolded the passage of the $40 billion for Ukraine, the procedure and vote in the Senate, and also where things stand with $1,000 stimulus checks. We will see if this gets adopted, and if it does. Stimulus checks have been incredibly popular, and if they pass something like that, it might persuade voters to keep Democrats in power. So link in the description below to this article that just came out yesterday. And it says Republican representative pushes for $1,000 stimulus to all Americans. Now you might be wondering, why is it a Republican and not a Democrat? Well, it could be all strategy is right now. As I mentioned, stimulus checks are extremely popular amongst the American people, and it's very likely we're going to be hearing pushes for more stimulus checks to keep people in power in the voting. They're going to want to persuade people that they are for them. And we're going to see if one actually gets passed and gets pushed through. And if it does, whoever is the primary person or individual that's leading, that is likely going to get a lot of support. So this is going to be an upcoming strategy. Now also the objection is, what about adding to debt and inflation? Well, we will see a lot of people are saying they're trying to figure out ways to make sure that it's paid for. And one way is by using untapped existing funds from previous stimulus packages and reallocating that towards stimulus checks. Now we will see, I will keep you up to date. But let's take a look at this article that says Representative Jim Banks appears to want to directly help inflation-weary Americans instead of giving more aid to war-torn Ukraine. As reported by Newsweek, the lawmakers told Fox News on Friday that the roughly $40 billion in aid that had been approved by the House could instead be tapped into issue $1,000 to each American. That's $1,000 for every single American, and that is the equivalent of $40 billion, Bank said. And with that going on with Americans right now, I'd rather be helping Americans get back to their feet and then sending this money abroad with no strings attached to a foreign country. Let me know your thoughts, you guys. However, Newsweek noted that the cost of giving each American $1,000 would be significantly higher than $40 billion. The population is currently more than 332.6 million according to US Census population clock, and that would mean that the cost would be more than 332.6 billion. So yes, if you questions the math, you are correct. 40 billion does not equal $1,000 stimulus checks. It equals roughly $120 going out to every person. So we probably need about 10 times what they're proposing going out to Ukraine. However, stimulus checks are back into consideration now. In addition to that, if you missed my previous video, you might want to check them out, as they're also calling for gas stimulus checks. In some occasions, are calling for monthly recurring checks, and you even heard calls for baby formula stimulus checks, and people are still asking about those child tax credits. Now we will see provisions are all across the table right now. We're going to see what Congress take into consideration, what they pass, what's going to be happening in this midterm election year. I'll be sure to keep you up to date. But we are hearing that they're looking to move legislation and quickly. And take a look at this article. The Senate advanced that $40 billion Ukrainian aid package. Now the Senate on Monday yesterday overwhelmingly advanced a $40 billion Ukrainian aid package that easily passed the House last week, but has stalled in the upper chamber because of the objections of Senate Ron Paul. Now senators voted at 1-11 to end debate on the motion to proceed the legislation, setting up the final vote of the bill for later this week. It's an important test of Republican support for continued U.S. humanitarian and military assistance for Ukraine, after several prominent Republican voices, including President Donald Trump, questioned the size of the $40 billion package. Some Republicans, including Bill Hagerty, announced before the vote that they would not support it. He said, "I certainly don't have anything against the Ukrainians. We want to see them win, but pumping more aid into a country when we're not taking care of our own country, the best thing that President Biden could do is stop the war that he has waged on American industry," he told Sunday Morning Futures. Now, Hagerty said, "I know that there are some other senators that are thinking very hard about this right now as well." Trump issued a statement on Friday criticizing Congress for moving an aid package to Ukraine at a time when parents in the United States are having trouble finding baby formula on store shelves due to the shortage of supply. Now the Democrats are sending another $40 billion to Ukraine, yet American parents are struggling to even feed their children. Trump said the assistance package passed with a large majority in the House by a vote of 368 to 57, and Republicans made up all the no votes. The legislation has been somewhat delayed by debate among Democrats over whether to attach the $10 billion in additional pandemic funding, which is another stimulus provisions, to help out with vaccines and therapeutics, as they're saying a new wave is coming of the Omicron stealth, and right now we're seeing cases on the incline. Now, Democratic leaders, however, eventually decided to move the Ukrainian money separately to prevent it getting held up by bipartisan battles attached to an amendment to limit asylum claims for US and Mexico borders and pandemic relief money. So it looks like the Ukrainian aid is going to be advanced through the Senate. We're going to be seeing what happens with an additional $10 billion for pandemic funding, and also what they're going to be unfolding with stimulus checks, gas stimulus checks, child tax credits, and all the provisions that people are asking for, and how Congress will respond to all of it. And whatever unfolds, you guys, I'll be sure to keep you up to date here on the channel and let you know the latest.